Welcome back to the garden room series. Now we are just about to plasterboard, and it's a job that, well, you either love it or hate it. Now I personally don't mind it because, like every other job, get yourself set up well and it's a breeze. Now the difference between what we're doing and normal plasterboarding is this is an insulated plasterboard, so it goes over the top of all of the insulation in the roof and gives us a continuous layer to sort of avoid thermal bridging and that sort of stuff. Now, we're using an insulated plasterboard with Cooltherm on the back of it. Now, Cooltherm has a far better U value than quite a lot of other insulated plasterboards. So what are the benefits of that? Well, I want to get the maximum amount of energy preservation, if you like. I don't want to leak heat here. And equally, I want to keep the building cool. So by using the Cooltherm product, I can keep the plasterboard, the overall thickness, a lot thinner. If you don't use this, sometimes you might have to put a 50mm PIR up and then a plasterboard, or a 50mm insulated plasterboard, which makes it about 62. Now the problem with that is the longest screw I can get in my collated drill, this is the collated drill, and that will be fine with this board, it's around about 37mm, 38mm. But again, if you didn't do that, you've got to use hand screw like 75mm drywalls, and they're not particularly nice. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the tools we're going to be using. So obviously drills, we've got a collated drywall screwdriver there. We're also having to cut this with a TS55, and we've got a particular blade in here. Now this blade has a lot less teeth, okay? The idea of this blade is it's designed to cut cement-based board materials, and it's perfect for plasterboard. It produces less dust and it will stay sharper for longer. So what we need to do is obviously connect it to the dust extraction, cut all the way through, and then basically you're there. I mean, it's a really good solution. So it's very, very neat, okay? So all of the cuts are very, very neat. Unlike when you score in snap plasterboard, then you've got to start rubbing it up with a rasp. Obviously health and safety, masks, ear defenders, eye protection, just the normal sort of thing. We also use some loose screws as well where we go around the edges, where sometimes it's particularly difficult to get the body of the collated screwdriver in. Tape measures, knives, marking out tools, and that's about it. Now I've also got a section of timber here which is machined to the thickness of the plasterboard. I've also got the angle which represents either a valley or a hip. Now I only use this to mark out. So we've already got a few sheets up in the ceiling, and they go into the valley. I'm going to climb up here. So the idea is, when I'm measuring, because the longest edge is lower down, when I set the rafters out, I put this on the rafters at 90 degrees, and then I can mark the exact position of where the face of the plasterboard is. That means I can measure it accurately, and when I cut through, it fits perfectly. Now we're also cutting a backing bevel on. It's around about 14 to 15 degrees against the valley. It's the same on the hip the other way. You could cut it square, but you obviously get a little void there. So as we're using the saw, it's no big deal to pull it round to the angle and get a really nice fit between there and there. So you can see here that the saw cuts it really nicely with the rail. There's no breakout and all the rest of it. And then we just go around drywalling it in. Now, where we meet our glue lambs, in this instance, because the rafters are set out according to, you know, for other reasons, we've added a metal trim. Now that metal trim catches the last of the plasterboard. The plasterboard is thicker than the trim, so you don't see it, and it's really nice because that can take a screw as well, just a typical drywall screw. So that's it. We're going to get on and board all of the ceilings first. That's insulated plasterboard. Then the external wall faces, they're insulated plasterboard, so we'll come down on the ceiling and then we'll splay cut the top of the wall boards over the top. They'll all be the same height, which is really nice. So all we've got to do is cut the same amount off every time. That'll make sure that they're the right distance from the finished floor that I want. And it's a matter of just screwing everything up. So it's a repetitious job, something you need to get into. Now, when we did the stud work, I probably mentioned that we've actually allowed to slide the plasterboard over the top. So at the moment, I've got some grounds here, which is screwed into the rafter, and I've got it screwed into the stud. I'll unscrew this, take this out, because now we've got all the stud work round, it's all braced and true and held. So we'll take that out. we'll slide the plasterboard over the top, we'll slide it back, then we'll put a timber fillet in such as this and fix it all together. Now the benefit of that is that all the plasterboard is continuous, the insulation layer is continuous, and on the back here, we've also already got some plasterboard in before we did some stud work. Now the reason we could do that is because we knew we didn't have any cables that needed to come through it. So everywhere else, we may have had to introduce some cables. You know, you can see all the first fixing electrical done, but we haven't had to do that. So that's it now. So we're gonna get on, we're gonna set ourselves up, we're gonna mark it all, cut it and fix it just like that. And although it looks like quite a daunting task, once you get into it, it's really quite quick. We've obviously got a tower scaffold that we can roll around. And also we put all the plasterboard in the middle here so we can actually work off of it. We've got OSB on top of it and we can work off of it and do these complicated triangles here. So let's get on. So what looks like a simple job sometimes, for example, putting a triangle of plasterboard here can cause you all kinds of trouble. And if you've done this before, you'll know, because we're cutting into an angle effectively. You can see how we cut a backing bevel, this is an offcut, on the plasterboard. Let me give you an example. Where it meets a valley or a hip, you've got a perfect junction between the two. This also enables me, this offcut, to mark where I need to measure to. So putting a pencil mark here and putting a pencil mark here, they're the 2 points that I need to measure to. Now I can't get right in the corner, so I've got a little piece of my trim and I've marked 300 millimeters there. All I need to do now is hold that onto the line, if you like, poke it along there, and that's 300 millimeters. So that there is 300. I can't get my tape in the end of here, because when I put the tape in, it just doesn't want to fit. All I have to do now is measure from the square end of that board and add on 300. So this length is 620, write that out the way there. And then the other length I need is the existing length, which I have, which was 663. So I know, just going to measure them off, put the rail on, cut it, and it'll be a perfect fit. So the next interesting thing will be transferring the measurements, because as soon as you get down and you look at the board, you've got to remember how it goes up. So I like to relate the end of the board. That'll be my ridge going into the valley. That's the join here, a little cross on there. So I measure the 620 along here to there, and then I measure the 663 down here, and that's what I'm cutting off. Then I'll get my rail across the 2 points here, and I can cut through that at 15 degrees on the back cut, and that will give me the piece I need to hopefully fit into there. Setting that to 15 degrees for my back cut. Got my extraction. I'm just going to get my mask on, because you get a little bit of dust towards the end of the cut. I want to make sure I'm deep enough too. There we go. This is the piece. We've obviously measured along, measured down, and we've got the backing bevel on. And as I say, once you're set up, it's really quite straightforward. You might be watching this thinking, why did you go to all that trouble? And I know a lot of people just get the plasterboard up and fill it and all the rest of it, but it takes hardly any time to get set up really well. But it is bamboozling, because you look at this and you think, how's it going to go around? It's just a matter of just thinking it out. So we'll put it into the top here. Let me just try and, there we go, we'll put it into the top and ease it up, and it should be an absolute treat. There we go. And then what we've got to do is fix it up. Put some drywalls in, and that's perfect. Got your bit ready, bro? Yeah. Let's get it in. I'll jump on here for you.
3 screws in that before.
3 screws before change, yeah, because I hate pulling them out when they're not empty, you know what I mean?
Sometimes you have to when you've got a big ceiling board.
I know, because you can't have 3 screws. It's better off pulling them out and using them loose, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how well this goes then, mate. So just ease it over the top. Just watch that there. I think it's about right, isn't it, mate?
Pretty good to me, mate.
How's that? Just push the far edge. Yeah, it's going to go, isn't it? Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I like that. The other thing is about having this continuous noggin up the side here. We've got grounds wherever we go, which is just what you want. Let's give you
One
one.
up here, I think.
All right. One here. There we go.
Beautiful.
All right.
Yeah.
Get that one done. I'll make the tea. What we don't want to do is mark all of this nice glue lam to where the rafters are. So all we've got is a little bit of tape, some sort of masking type tape. We quickly tape that on first. That shows us where the rafters are. And we also do the same on the valleys as well. So we've taken it off now, but we also had tape. Here we go, here's one here. We've also got tape here. It just means that we haven't got to draw a pencil line on it, because if you do that and you come back afterwards, you've got to sand them off. Can you imagine the time it would take? So that's just a little tip, a little bit of masking tape, and that shows you where you've got to be. So we're really moving on with our plasterboarding. All of our slopes are almost finished. You saw us sliding all the boards over the top of the partitioning, and I just prefer to do that because I want my partitioning in to get my first fixed cables in, to get any cables in the roof and all the rest of it. But I don't want my boards to be broken by the stud work. I want my boards to go directly over the top of the stud work. That means that all the insulation is completely maintained, the vapor barrier is maintained. It's just a much nicer job. And indeed, it takes a lot less time than cutting this side of the wall, making sure you've got enough grounds everywhere. Grounds so you can sort of screw it all back together. So this way we can just go right the way over from ridge all the way down to the plate there and make it all continuous. We've taken a lot of care and time to cut all of our valleys and our hips nice and straight as well. Indeed, this is a tapered edge board. Most of the insulated plasterboard is like this, so I could easily have this tapered jointed, but we're gonna wet plaster this one. We want it to be absolutely beautiful, of course. So the walls, once we've gone around sliding the plasterboard over, then we reattach the fixings all the way through everything into the grounds that we've got, checking that they're still plumb. So this is the last fixing that I've got to fix up into the grounds that are behind everything. So all we need to do is plumb it up, check it for plumb. We've got a reference mark here and simply attach it all back through. I'm using one of these nice wafer head screws from Spax. It's a Wirox, it'll go all the way through into the grounds behind. And that's it.